At some point, you and I were handed a bag of blocks and a map for how we put them together, and that was great. It was a lot of fun. But then at some point, for all kinds of different reasons, the next step was to take it all apart. I was that kid that wanted to know how things worked. I was that kid that took apart the VCR to understand the mechanism. I was also that kid that almost got the VCR back together again. Sorry, Mom and Dad. By the way, if you're under 30 and you don't know what a VCR is, it's fine. You can Google it after the sermon here. But this is the point. There is an enduring quality to Lego that makes it, to this day, a competitor to video games and VR in our household. A quality that means my son, and soon my daughter, and my wife, and myself, we can all find ourselves equally engaged at 4 and 44. She's 44, I'm 45, technically. But the appeal is that what makes Lego Lego is that Lego is whatever you make it to be. And look, this is a sermon. And so we all know we're going to have to shift focus soon here, and it's not hard to see where I'm going. I think that's what makes faith faith as well. And for the last couple of years, one of the big talking points in Christianity, at least online, has been deconstruction. Is it good to deconstruct? Is it bad to deconstruct? What on earth does it even mean to deconstruct? No one seems to have a solid answer for that one. But as far as I'm concerned, deconstruction is table stakes for faith. The only thing you can't do with Lego is crazy glue it all together. And the only thing you can't do with faith is keep it from evolving. It doesn't work. It undermines the very premise. And it's funny because in that last series, we got these little glimpses into each of us as a teaching team, what it is or maybe who it is that makes us tick. For example, I shared part of my story, the questions that I was asking that led me to search out a more non-violent Christianity. And then Bobby and Scott and Yelena did the same. And it's been really interesting to hear some of the feedback I've received in emails over the last couple of weeks, the ways that you have identified with one or two or maybe even all 4 of those sermons. Because the fact is, most of you here in this room are asking questions too. And in that, searching out voices to aid in your journey, you are here because your faith continues to evolve and change. And I might venture to say, in that, at least based on the conversations that I have, your faith continues to become more real as it does. Look, I've been at this job for over 20 years now, and almost a decade here at Common since starting this church. And in that time, I have changed a lot. Things have changed a lot. I'm a father and a girl dad now. I'm someone who has survived and even loved being married for more than 20 years now. I've finished new degrees in that time. I've written books. There's no way that I could be the same person or believe the same way that I did as a fresh-faced Bible college graduate getting hired into a Pentecostal church in Toronto at 23 years old. Now, those were good times, and I value them deeply as part of my journey, but I can't live there anymore. That's not real life, and therefore it can't be real faith to stay back there either. You have to keep growing. You have to keep changing. You have to keep building and then tearing down so that you can build something new again. And honestly, I think it's actually that last part that scares people, at least the people in power, the most about this idea of deconstruction. Because let's be honest here, to interrogate your beliefs or change how you see the world, to question and then maybe even abandon your faith or walk away from church, I don't think that's really what gets people all hot and bothered. People come and go all the time. That's life. I think what really scares people about deconstruction is the reconstruction on the other side. See, very rarely do people take their Lego apart and leave it like that forever. At some point, we always seem to come back and build something new. And that means new systems, new structures. It means new communities rise up. It means we create new challenges to the things that have kept certain people in power for a very long time, and I'm convinced that's actually, honestly, what really scares people about the idea of deconstruction. Rohadi Nagasar is a local author here in the city, and he writes this in his book, When We Belong: naming division, questioning old ways, embarking on new paths, it all has a name, it's deconstruction. A pathway unto liberation from all that isn't right in the world. Deconstruction is the process of finding a more beautiful way to belong and to live in the fullness of who we were made to be. And what I think he nails here is that this somewhat nebulous term, deconstruction, that gets thrown around a lot, isn't just about questioning and tearing down and pulling apart, although of course that's where the name comes from. Ultimately, though, it's about creating something new and better. Something that serves you better. Something that serves your neighbor more fully. A faith that learns from the past and acknowledges our mistakes, that understands the harm that was done, unintended or otherwise, and then works to heal it. See, there was a period about 10 years ago in my life that I was deeply stuck in that first deconstruction phase, asking lots of questions about my faith and what I believed and how I was going to believe it, how I would give language to the heart of what I saw in Jesus and whether my life was aligned with his way in the world. And I was questioning whether my lines, or at least the ones that I had been given, were where I thought Jesus would actually draw them. And some of the conclusions that I was coming to didn't fit where I was at the time. But at some point, and for me it was about a decade ago, I got to the place where I felt like I had it all taken apart. Spoiler, I didn't. But I felt like all the pieces were on the ground, just a mess of possibility, like when my son dumps his Lego on the floor in front of me to play. And at that point, I had to decide what I was going to do with it. And so I quit my job, and we started Commons Church, and it's been, honestly, a similar mess of mistakes and celebration ever since. But the thing is, that process of rebuilding isn't new. It's far older than me. It's far older than us. In fact, it's older even than Christianity itself.